It's time, Fort Wayne. Your sports, your station. It's the Sports Rush with Brett Rump. Covering all the topics that hit a nerve here in the Summit City.
Clark, 11 yards, touchdown.
Only on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Now here's your host, Brett Rump.
The greatest, most interesting, most important person of all time.
You are incredible. Over the point.
Yeah, well, you're half right.
What is this, amateur hour?
This is going to be huge.
I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Just when I think you've said the stupidest thing ever, you keep talking.
I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That boy ain't right.
The simplest way to put it, I have problems.
Welcome to the alleged show.
Jiggy with it. Getting jiggy with it.
Adam Lundy, our producer, playing the spring/summer library. You can't get jiggy during the winter. It's just too darn cold. But you can get jiggy when it gets above 35, 40 degrees. And it's a beautiful day today. A lot of sunshine. Time to take you home on a Monday with the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump. Adam Lundy is the producer and DJ extraordinaire for this little extravaganza we have each and every day. Hey, it was great talking to so many people that came up. And I always know that's probably a little awkward for some of our listeners to come up and say something about the show or some part of the show that they enjoy. But I will say that's one of the real pleasures of going out doing these games. So don't hesitate to stop over and say hi. I had a couple from Columbia City said Tuesday Time Capsule Trivia is their favorite. And the guy immediately jumped in and said, but we have not called to play.
Oh, come on.
Because they knew the question was going to be, have I whooped you around like a stuffed toy? But they listen to the show every day. Appreciate them.
Yeah.
And then had another guy who just stopped me as I was walking by and just, hey, Brett. And, it's one of those where I'm half deaf, so remember, it might depend what side of me you're on. But no, he was very nice about listening every day. I think that was Travis. And so we had a number of people that listened to the show that were at the games on Saturday. Of course, there was about 5,500 others with them at the game.
Man, fantastic.
Packed crowd Saturday night for Norwell, Columbia City.
Yeah.
And in case you missed the broadcast, you could always listen to it because we've got our Fort Wayne High School sports page. And that's available wherever you listen to podcasts. So you don't have to really search for us if you're listening to any kind of podcast on any platform like Spotify or Apple. It's real easy. You just go to the search bar, put in Fort Wayne High School Sports, and you can get replays of all of our play-by-play broadcasts that we produce locally here. So go back, listen to football games if you want, all of our basketball season. But it's always the most recent is listed first. So the first three entries on the show page, the championship, the Columbia City semifinal, and the Norwell semifinal. So they're all there. Whether you're a fan of Columbia City or Norwell, you want to get a chance to hear the replay, you can always go back and listen.
Yeah, a lot of fun on Saturday covering those girls' semi-state games. So, yeah, definitely, if you want to listen back, you know where to go. You
heard me, but the guy that was really working was Adam. Because I'm just sitting there watching and talking at the same time. That's not that tough.
Hey, we both play our part here in bringing you coverage of these high school basketball games. And like you said, that's super cool that people came up and said, hey, we love the show. That's super cool, too. So,
and it's also a big thanks to Parkview Sports Medicine,
yes,
our basketball sponsor that helps to give us the budget that we can actually go do all these games.
Absolutely.
Because when you get to the semi-state and you got 2 games in the morning and 1 in the afternoon, you got to pay rights fees to be able to broadcast and get permission from the IHSAA to be there.
Yeah.
It gets expensive. In fact, coming up this Saturday, it goes up even more for rights fees to do a state championship, but we're going to be there. And if you would like to be a sponsor of the Norwell Lady Knights basketball game, just get a hold of me. You can text the show at 260-447-8500, or you could find me on social media. On X, I am at Brett Rump Sports. We would love to have you as a sponsor, and it just helps cover our costs because they get rather pricey this time of year with sending broadcasters down to Indianapolis. I mean, heck, it's like $20 just to get a parking spot. So,
oh, yeah.
Then you've got, the food, the travel. You've got the rights fees. I mean, it certainly helps if we, because we don't want to miss any of the action. We want to be able to bring it to you.
Right.
But, it's one of those things at the end of the year, everybody checks their their line items on their P&L, and it's like, well, we don't want high school basketball to look bad because you know what happens when there's budget cuts. Don't let that happen.
No.
Everybody complains when somebody stops covering high school sports in this town. We've been doing it now for 16 consecutive years.
Been crushing it.
And you know, there's a number of other stations that have tried it and had to drop out.
Yeah.
And we haven't. And so a lot of that thanks, and the reason you're able to hear these games is because of the great sponsors and support that we get in bringing you high school basketball. And so we appreciate them. Parkview Sports Medicine, Pizza Hut, a couple of the local ones that have been with us pretty much since the inception of doing these sports broadcasts. I think we started in 2012, 2011, 2012. So maybe it's like our 15th season of doing high school sports. Been a while.
Yeah, and we've been crushing it, and we'll continue to keep bringing you coverage because that's what we like to do here at 1380 The Fan, my man.
All right, got to talk about the tease that I have been dropping out there for the last 30 minutes. The news came down today. Big move up for soccer in our community because the Fort Wayne FC moving on up. USL League One. And that means now it is semi-pro and professional players, and you're not going to get what is essentially a good college summer league. You're going to have guys that are professional soccer players that I imagine this league has a draft. But just to give you an idea of some of the other organizations, right now there's 14 teams listed in USL League One. It's kind of the double A of soccer because you've got the MLS, which is, of course, the major leagues. And then you've got the level below is USL Champions League. And that's a lot of the bigger cities, and you might know Indy 11. That's the organization or the league that they're in. And then you have the USL League One. So the level of soccer is going to take a step up. The quality of play, the entire organization is going to evolve, and they're also going to build their own stadium. If you haven't heard that news, it's going to be near Bass Road and I-69 and hold more than 8,400 fans. And it will open up in time for the 2026 season, which will be the first for Fort Wayne FC as a member of the USL League One. But, of course, Fort Wayne FC is owned by Mark Music, who is the CEO of Ruoff Mortgage Company and has ownership in a number of other properties and commercial real estate. But the head of the organization, the guy who's basically running Fort Wayne FC, DeMarcus Beasley, looks at this as an opportunity to really strengthen the local economy, create new youth development opportunities, and unite fans across the region. So that is coming in 2026. Fort Wayne FC moving on up. I don't know if it's the east side or the west side, but they are moving on up.
Yes, sir.
Actually, it's a little bit more of moving on up to the west side because Bass Road and I-69. But that's okay. The song fit.
It fit. So I had to get there.
Good pull, Mr. DJ. All right. What else is happening right now? Pacers.
Yeah.
Got another impressive win. They take care of the L.A. Clippers down at Gainbridge Fieldhouse yesterday, 129-111. Nice, solid game by Tyrese Halliburton, who put up 29 points, had 12 assists. And Pacers just continue to win. I mean, might want to jump on the bandwagon because they're playing better. They're playing better than they'd had when they had that little bit of a slump and got beat by some of the teams they shouldn't have lost to. But now they seem to be coming out and taking care of business. Now, we do know there's an injury to T.J. McConnell. He's probably going to be out of the lineup tonight. But who do they play?
Yeah, I got you here. I'll figure. I know they're out on the West Coast, or actually no,
they're at home. They've still got home games. Remember, they have 4 home games coming out of the break.
Oh,
they've
got
Phoenix?
Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets tonight.
Oh, that's a tough one.
That is. Turner, you've got a tough one tonight, buddy.
Yeah. Not sure if you guard him with Siakam or Turner.
Ooh, that's tough because, I mean, he can stretch the floor, so I don't know.
He he plays really more like a 4.
Yeah.
In the fact that he spends a lot of his time outside the three-point arc.
But if he wants to, he can go into the paint and just put up those little hook shots.
But wouldn't you rather have Turner as a help side defender?
Yeah.
That can, if he drives, then you've got an extra defender to try to block the shot or come over and provide help and support.
That'll be interesting. But like you said, they've definitely turned it around. The Pacers are an NBA best 16-5 in 2025.
Awesome.
Yeah, so definitely getting things turned around here in this new year.
Also, we mentioned earlier, the Horizon League is expanding. They're going to add a 12th team, and it's going to be Northern Illinois, who is leaving the MAC because their football team is going to the Mountain West, and they had to find a new home for the rest of their sports, and so they are going to be joining the Horizon League, not this year, but next year. So 2026, you're going to have an extra member in the Horizon League. You're going to have a new soccer stadium. You're going to have an upgrade to the Fort Wayne FC. And by the way, that USL League One, that is a March through October league, not just a May, June, and July league. So once they go to USL 1, they're going to expand and have a much broader schedule. And some of the teams that you'll find out of the 14 that currently play in USL League One, Charlotte, Chattanooga, Knoxville, Portland. I mean, it's across the country.
Yeah.
So, and it's interesting because geographically there isn't a lot of Midwest. You had at one point, I think, was Cincinnati in this, and now they're in the MLS, and you have Indy 11. They're the league above this. But you don't have the closest team in Madison. And there's almost no one else that's in the heartland, the Midwest. There, I think there's a team in Des Moines, Iowa, perhaps. Or is it Omaha? Maybe it's Omaha.
Oh, man.
But, Omaha is a 10-hour drive. So, Madison you can get to in about, 5.5, 6 hours? 5.5 hours. But anyway, the bottom line is it's a move up for Fort Wayne FC, and soccer keeps thriving here in the Summit City.
Absolutely. So looking forward to seeing what that looks like coming next year, but still want them to have a great season this year in USL League 2.
It is time to take a time out and to come back with our 15 minutes with the great Don Fischer. Yeah, we got something to talk about. How about those Hoosiers with the big comeback and a huge second half against the Purdue Boilermakers yesterday down at Simon Scott Assembly Hall? Don Fischer joins us next on the Sports Rush, 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
When I started DuPont Family Dentistry here in Fort Wayne 25 years ago, I never imagined the incredible journey it would take me on. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Deal. Over my career, I have been privileged with helping patients restore confidence in their smiles. We not only see smile transformations, we see lives transformed. And along the way, we have also built some great relationships. However, as time went on, I noticed a growing need, one that just wasn't being fully met when it came to dentures and our denture patients.
Welcome back to the Sports Rush, your daily local sports fix, 4 to 6. I am Brett Rump along with Adam Lundy. It is a big week for live action this week here at 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM, especially as we get to the weekend. Now, coming up tonight, we have got Purdue basketball live at 6:30, Inside Indiana Basketball then at 7:30, and tomorrow the Mastodons Coaches Show at 6. But then you've got the Hoosiers taking on the Penn State Nittany Lions. That will be on Wednesday night on our sister station, 92.3 FM, WOWO Radio, 92.3 FM. Pregame starts at 7:30 with an 8:30 tip-off. Then on Thursday night, the Mastodons with their final home game of the regular season. They'll take on Northern Kentucky at 7:45. That says an 8 o'clock tip, but I don't know about that. It might be a 7 o'clock tip. Then on Friday, Purdue, UCLA. That's a 7 o'clock pregame, 8 o'clock tip. And on Saturday, we'll have state championship basketball with the Norwell Lady Knights taking on Greensburg. Greensburg undefeated. That's a 6 o'clock tip, and that will be right after the Mastodons take on Cleveland State on Saturday afternoon. with a 4 o'clock tip-off. All right, every week at this time, we get a chance to visit with the legendary Hall of Fame broadcaster of the Indiana Hoosiers. It's our 15 Minutes with Fisch, presented by Hoopy Insurance Services. Well, Don, if we only watched the first half yesterday of that game against Purdue, we thought that the Hoosiers were kind of following a similar path to their own self-destruction, but yet what on earth happened in that second half? In my opinion, that was the best half of basketball we've seen from Indiana this year.
Well, there's no doubt about it. In fact, my color analyst, Eric Sewer, said after the ball game, he said that might be the best half of basketball I've seen Indiana play ever. So he was pretty excited about the way they played in the second half. There's no doubt about that. I think, Brett, part of the reason they got off to a slow start yesterday was the fact that they changed the starting lineup a little bit. Malik Renew started in the post position over Umar Ballo, and Mackenzie Mbako was also on the bench at the start of the ball game. And I'll be honest with you, from the standpoint of how they got started, I didn't like what I saw there, but I did think going into the game with 8 days between matchups, between game action, I thought they might come in a little rusty in that first half because, 8 days away from playing competitive basketball sometimes makes you feel like you haven't been playing competitive basketball for a while.
It's called rust.
Yes, exactly. It is exactly what the term I used in the game. So I do think there was some rust there. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But also the difference in the second half to the first half was the fact that they had hardly any substitutions. All four starters, Miles Rice, the sophomore, Malik Renew, obviously a junior, Anthony Leal, Luke Goody, and Trey Galloway. Those guys played the entire second half. Now, Malik Renew did not, because the only substitution Woodson made in that contest in the second half was Ballo. Ballo did come in and play for Renew, and Renew came in and played for Ballo in the second half. The other four guys never left the floor in the second half, and that included the sophomore Miles Rice. But those seniors, Leal, Goody, and Galloway, they were spectacular in this ball game. I think they were the difference in the contest, and because there wasn't a lot of substitutions, I think that's one of the reasons Indiana got going, and then they were able to finish the ball game the same way they got started there in the second half. So the difference in the game right there, in my opinion, was the effort and energy level with which they started the second half and then played that way for the entire 20 minutes of the contest.
Don, I've been talking on my program here for the last week or two about how teams wear down when you get into middle of February, because you don't have that boost of adrenaline that you get when it's postseason basketball and your season might be on the line. And it's been a long year. A lot of these kids now, college basketball gets going in June. So, it's been a long time of playing. And when you start playing games, every 3-4 days, you got practice. Sometimes you have travel in between. I thought I was seeing around college basketball a lot of tired legs. Three-point shooting was off. Defensively, a lot of teams were a step slow. And so sometimes you get that break, and you might have to deal with the rust. But then once you shake that off, you've got a little extra bounce. And I think Purdue looks like a little bit of a tired team right now. Braden Smith just has not been himself the last couple of games.
No, he's had 6 turnovers in each of the last 2 games, including the Indiana performance yesterday. And I do think that has, because he plays such a huge role for them. That's the other thing. He almost never leaves the floor, and if he does, it's for a very short period of time. So I'm not surprised at all that maybe he's starting to struggle a little bit for that very reason, that those legs are they're pretty tired after all the work he's put in this year. Purdue's lost 4 in a row now, which is unheard of for the Boilermakers. Matt Painter's teams have always been able to, if they get a loss, they seem to bounce back right away from that defeat. All four of the teams that have beaten Purdue here at the end of the season thus far are really good basketball teams. I'm excluding Indiana in the sense that we don't know what we're going to get from Indiana night in and night out. But those other 3 teams that beat them, they are 3 of the best teams in the league. Indiana hasn't proven anywhere close to that at this point. But if you remember last year, Brett, they got on a run at the end of last season, too, when the feeling was much the same as it is this year at this point, where they had 4 straight wins last year at the end of the season. Then the Big Ten tournament, they won another ball game and then got beat by Nebraska that ended their season. But this is a team also that still believes they can make the NCAA field if they finish strong here, and they've got 4 games to do that, of which 2 are at home and 2 are on the road. The 2 on the road are on the West Coast. They've got a 6-day road trip coming up after Wednesday's game against Penn State, in which they're going to face Washington, a team that's beatable, obviously, because they're dead last in the league at 4-12. Likewise, Oregon's a good basketball team and will be a test out there in Eugene. But in my opinion right now, if Indiana plays like they did the rest of the season against, like they did the second half of this ball game against Purdue, they've got a chance to go 3-1, maybe even 4-0, and certainly solidify a chance to be in the NCAA tournament.
I've got a theory here, Don, and I want you to give me your take on it and see if you think I'm onto something. But Mike Woodson has announced that this is going to be it. So, you know, all the pressure of what you do going into next season is off. And you've got guys like Ballo and Mackenzie Mbako. And they didn't play hardly at all in that second half. Ballo came in and he'd got his minutes, but they didn't play Ballo and Renew together. They were subbing for each other.
Correct.
And I'm wondering if, you know, Woodson during the course of the year tried to get those guys heavy minutes because those were guys he wanted to see come back. Now, I'm not sure if Ballo can come back next year, but Mbako certainly could if he doesn't go to the NBA. But now it's like, heck with it. I'm going with the guys that I think can win us the game because next year doesn't matter anymore. And I'm wondering if that frees him up on how he uses guys in minute distribution, because there were a couple of other guys that didn't see the court yesterday too. So either that or he's finally got the answers that he's been searching for all year. But what did you think about the way he handled the rotation in the game yesterday?
Well, I didn't like the first half rotation because he brings in Kanan Carlisle off the bench. He brings Mbako and Ballo off the bench. Now, I'm not saying that wasn't I know why. It's an inside thing about why Ballo and Mackenzie Mbako did not start yesterday, so I won't go there.
Okay.
But Kanan Carlisle came into the ball game, played 7 minutes, shot some air balls, 0 for 2 from the three-point line, 0 for 3 in the ball game. And he hasn't been playing a lot lately anyway. Why they brought him in at that point, I don't know. Ballo and Mbako were those 2 guys didn't start for a reason. I can't tell you what it was, but they didn't start for a reason. The rest of these guys, however, and look at Goody, Leal, and Galloway, they are seniors. They don't want this season to end the way it had or the way it did last year. They want this season to end with Indiana in the NCAA tournament. They've still got a chance to do that. And I think those 3 seniors and the leadership that they provide and what they're saying to their teammates at this point in the season, I think, is huge. And there's no doubt, winning that ball game yesterday, coming from 12 down at halftime, that was inspired play, and it was primarily because the 4 guys that were out on the floor that played the entire second half, Rice, Leal, Goody, and Galloway, those guys all wanted it just the same. And when you've got that kind of camaraderie, it's going to help your whole team.
Don, do you pay attention to the NCAA tournament bubble? Do you follow where the Hoosiers are at and what they need to do to get in?
I very seldom get involved in that because I think it's all speculation, and that's what it is until you prove it. So I have not taken a look at it, but I know that I've heard that Indiana is very much on the bubble at this point.
Yeah, but they've made a giant leap to at least get to the bubble because they didn't have those signature wins. Now they got a couple of them, but they can't give them back by losing to somebody they should beat. And Penn State comes into Bloomington on Wednesday, and this is one of those games. When you talk about the inconsistency, they got to have this one against the Nittany Lions.
Oh, they absolutely do, because they're going to go on the road to Washington and Oregon after this. Washington's very beatable. Oregon's a team that can beat you pretty easily. And then they play Ohio State to wrap up the season. But the Penn State game, that is the most important game of the year right now because it's the most winnable of all four of these ball games. You're playing at home against a team that you've already beaten one time. So in my mind, this is a pivotal game in regard to Indiana's basketball fortunes.
Fill me in. What's coming up tonight? Have we got you? We got women. What do we have on the Inside Indiana Basketball? Inside
IU Basketball tonight, Brett, is Indiana's men. And we will have Yasir Rosemont, who had the scout for this ball game against Purdue yesterday, and the previous ball game against Purdue as well. So we will have Yasir Rosemont as our special guest. Appreciate it. As always, Don, look forward to talking to you next Monday. Don Fischer joining us here on the Sports Rush. Of course, Don Fischer joins us every Monday at this time. It's our 15 Minutes with Fisch, always presented by Hoopy Insurance Services, an independent insurance agent. That means they can shop multiple companies to find the policy that is just right for you. If you have a home, a boat, a car, maybe even company insurance, business insurance, you want to get a quote? You contact Hoopy, H-U-P-E, Insurance Services. All right, we'll take a break. We're going to keep rolling on this Monday edition. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a state finalist in girls basketball, Eric Thornton, coach of the Norwell Lady Knights, scheduled to be on the line with us next. You're listening to the Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
You're listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Over the weekend, the Mastodons men got a win over Oakland on Friday night, 80-66. This game actually was tied at 53 apiece with 12.5 minutes left, and the Dons ended the game on a 27-13 run to finish it off. They hit 17 of 38 from beyond the three-point line. Rested legs, man. I've been telling you, you rest the legs and you shoot the three a lot better. 45% for the game. Bello with 19 points, 8 assists. Oakland, a disastrous 1 for 21 from the three-point line. Women's basketball got a win over Detroit Mercy yesterday, 91-62. Now, don't be fooled by the 29-point score because it was 37-32, just a 5-point game early in the third quarter. And then the Purdue Fort Wayne women outscored the Titans 54-30 the rest of the way. And Lauren Ross with 20, Sydney Freeman with 15, Audra Emerson and Renna Schwederman 14 apiece. Purdue Fort Wayne women were 15 of 32 from behind the three-point line at 47%. Also, the Horizon League put out a memo for men's basketball scenarios as far as seeding now that we're into the final week of the season. And RMU, the hottest team in the league, Robert Morris, has clinched a top 2 seed. Because of tiebreakers, nobody's going to take the top 2 away from Robert Morris. Cleveland State and Youngstown State, they right now have locked up top 5 seeds. Cleveland State could actually lock up a top 4 if they get a win and either Milwaukee or Purdue Fort Wayne lose on Thursday. Milwaukee and Purdue Fort Wayne guaranteed right now top 6. But the Mastodons right now could finish anywhere from 2nd to 6th. Purdue Fort Wayne would lock up a top 5 if they get a win Thursday against Northern Kentucky, or if Oakland has a loss this Thursday. Oakland and Northern Kentucky are guaranteed to be in the top 8, and Green Bay is the 11 seed. We know that. So, anyway, the Horizon League tournament's going to get started a week from tomorrow, and the regular season will end on Saturday. Mastodons with 2 games, 1 at home, 1 on the road. They'll be hosting Northern Kentucky coming up this Thursday night. That will be at the Coliseum, a 7 o'clock tip, and we'll be on the air with the pregame show starting at 6:45. And then on Saturday, a trip to Cleveland. Time to go is it the Mistake on the Lake? Is that what they call it? I can't say anything about Cleveland right now. They've already beaten the Dons once. But Cleveland State will be the opponent for the regular season finale. And the Mastodons will tip against Cleveland State at 4 p.m. this Saturday. 3:45 will be the pregame right here at 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Well, coming up later tonight, don't forget you've got the Purdue Coaches Show with Matt Painter. That comes up at 6:30. And then at 7:30, it will be Don Fischer and Inside IU Basketball right here at 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM. Also, coming up tomorrow night, it's the Mastodons Coaches Show. We'll be joined by men's basketball coach John Kaufman, women's basketball coach Maria Marquesano, and I know at least a couple of players from the men's basketball team, including Rasheed Bello and Trey Lewis. That comes up tomorrow here on the Sports Rush. Well, we were there on Saturday, semi-state action at Huntington North, where the winner turned out to be the Norwell Lady Knights. They avenged a regular season loss to Columbia City and locked down defensively. They get the victory in the championship game, 61-53 over the Eagles. And now Columbia City has a date with Greensburg coming up in the field house down in Indianapolis. What did I say?
Columbia City.
Oh, Norwell has the game against Greensburg coming up this Saturday. Oh, man. You know, we talk about tired legs this time of year. I got a tired mouth. You know, all that talking I had to do on Saturday, I got to get my mouth back. It's got to have, I need a bye week because my mouth is kind of just worn out. But fortunately, I won't be the one that goes down there to call the game since I can't even get the team straight. But we will bring you coverage right here on 1380 The Fan, 100.9 FM, starting at 6 p.m. with the tip between Norwell and undefeated Greensburg. Winning coach Eric Thornton is joining us on the guest line. And first of all, Coach, they're never easy. You've done it back-to-back, and you've done it with a little different group each year. But congratulations on the semi-state championship at Huntington North.
Oh, thank you so much, Brett. We're just thrilled to be back again and had our media day down there today and getting things rolling for a fun week.
It certainly should be that. When you look at the day, 2 games in one day, and the morning started, I thought maybe a little sluggish. Did you think there were any nerves? Was it just you needed a half to kind of get going? What did you see in that first game, the win over Delta?
Yeah, I thought we started off well there as we kind of got settled in, and then Delta really took it to us there the last part of the second quarter. I thought we got very unsettled. I thought we lost composure there for a few minutes, and Delta took advantage of it like any team will at that level of the tournament. We had to regather at halftime, and there was no magic words or yelling or anything like that. This team has grown up a lot this season, even though they're young. I thought they came out with a lot of maturity in that second half, and it didn't feel like, I know it ended up 30. It didn't feel like a 30-point win, but I don't think it was bad for us to struggle a little bit going into that Columbia City game at night because we knew how tough that was going to be if we got there.
Was the championship game won on Saturday afternoon, or was it won actually back when you played Columbia City and lost by 7 to the Eagles?
Well, this team, nobody likes to lose. But what this team has done in the tournament is to avenge both of our conference losses to really, really high-quality teams. Both Belmont and Columbia City are elite, not just in our area, but in the state in 3A. And those losses really stung. We deserve to lose both games, and a lot of respect for both of those teams. But we've had a hard path getting through those two teams to get to this level. And our kids have learned a lot from those losses. We've watched a lot of film, which is hard to do when you lose. It's easy to watch film when you win. But just being able to be accountable for some things and what types of things can we clean up and learn from? And I think that's been the growth of our team, is being able to make a loss, a good loss, by learning what we need to from it. And then when the opportunity's there, our kids have really played well in those types of games.
I didn't see the first meeting between you two. Did you adjust anything defensively? Because I thought you were really superb defensively on Saturday night.
Yeah, we did. I think, we're a big 1-3-1 team, as you know. It's been something that kind of, each team hangs their hat on something, and I think you can only really be good at one thing. I think you can be okay at several things defensively, but, we like to play our 1-3-1, and we like to learn how teams play against it and then adjust from there. Addie Baxter is such an elite player that the first time we played him, we extended it like we normally do up top, and she's just too good. So we really just backed it up. That's what we did. We just backed up our 1-3-1. Our pickup point, instead of being across the 10-second line, now became at about the volleyball line in the front court, and just trying to compact it and not giving her as much space to be able to create. And when you pressure her and she gets past you, it forces you into some rotations that you don't want to make, and you don't necessarily have to make against other teams. She's that good, and so I think we backed it up, and I think that took away some of the strengths of their other players, being able to catch in rhythm and be able to hit those corner threes. That's it. That was the adjustment, Brett. It really was nothing other than let's not give her as much space to create and attack. And there in the fourth, she did some of that. That's credit to Addie and how good she is. But that was our game plan, and I thought it took some things away that they got the first time.
I'll tell you, sometimes there's unsung heroes, and sometimes their stats don't necessarily blow you away, but they come up with some really key plays at key stretches of the game. And I think that was on display Saturday night. I thought Swineford came in and got key rebounds. Columbia City was going to crash the glass trying to get every rebound on the offensive end because they needed points. And I thought she did a nice job of clearing some space and going up above a crowd and grabbing a couple of rebounds.
Absolutely. One of the unsung heroes on our team has been Bella Swineford's growth, being able to come off the bench, another sophomore that we bring in that has gotten better. Last year she played on our freshman team, and so for her to come in and take advantage of opportunities like that, she's playing with a lot of confidence. And even though she's not somebody that you'll read about in the paper, I really appreciate you highlighting those types of plays, because it's all about winning at this point and finding a way. And Bella doesn't need any credit. She doesn't expect that. But I will tell you, she deserves it. Those were huge plays in the game for us. And I also want to point to those. I know Vanessa gets a lot of accolades, and deservedly so. But those two, the first and the third quarter ending threes, to give us that momentum, those were really huge for our team. So lots of great plays in that game by a lot of our players, and so very, very proud of them.
Well, as a reward, if you want to call it that, you get to take on an undefeated Greensburg team. How much have you been able to dive into Greensburg?
Yeah, so been doing that a lot yesterday, and then got back from media day today, and we've just been getting right into that film again with our team and also our coaching staff. So I'm going to be looking at more tonight, but their starting five is really, really good. We're going to get a kid back here from also a broken collarbone, the Harmon kid that hasn't been playing the last couple weeks. So, they're strong. They're big. Their transition game is really high-level stuff, and then they can get right into the just driving downhill. It's interesting, the style of basketball in the South is a lot of man-to-man. You see just a lot of half-court man-to-man. So watching them move the basketball, and they score at a high level. One of the top scoring teams in the state. So, we've got a lot to do this week. But I think our schedule has prepared us well to play a team like this. And everybody's good at this point of the season. Our team is too, and I like where we're at. But we certainly have our hands full.
How did last year's trip to the state finals? How did that set you up this year?
Yeah, we were talking about that a lot today. Everything was new for us last year, and you're so excited to get there. And you never know if you're going to get there in the first place or get back. So, for us going through the meeting and, being able to go through the different fun things that you get to do in media day, there's just not a level of anxiousness right now. We go down to practice tomorrow. That'll be fun to get back out on the floor again. But, it's unique with this team. Every floor we've played on this year at every level of state tournament, we've played on that floor before. And, nobody else can say that. So I think for us to be able to go out there and such an awesome venue like Gainbridge is. Even the kids that didn't play last year, they were a part of that. And so I think that gives us a level of comfort and a lot of confidence to go in there and just continue to play with the momentum that this team has right now.
Well, congrats again, and enjoy the experience. And maybe this time we can change the result, and you can bring home that state championship trophy. We'll be pulling for you. We'll be down there with the broadcast, and looking very forward to it. Best of luck, Coach.
Hey, thanks again, Brett.
Yep, that is Eric Thornton joining us, coach of the Norwell Lady Knights. They'll take on Greensburg down in the state championship game in Class 3A coming up this Saturday at 6. We'll take a quick time out. It's a Sports Rush on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.
Producer Adam Lundy taking you home for our final segment of the Sports Rush with Brett Rump today. A lot of exciting news that came out today, and it was fun talking about some of it. We're talking about NIU, who's going to be joining the Horizon League, home of Purdue Fort Wayne, coming up next season for all sports against football. And we also had the exciting news today that Fort Wayne FC will be moving on up to USL League One after this upcoming season in 2025. They'll be moving to a new stadium and moving up in leagues next season, so that'll be really fun. Appreciate everybody tuning in today for the Sports Rush with Brett Rump. Appreciate our guests on the show today. In our first hour, we had Roger Grossman on to talk a little bit about the Warsaw Tigers and their semi-state run and their upcoming matchup in the States at Gainbridge this Saturday. Also, thanks to IU Hoosiers legend Don Fischer for joining us for 15 minutes with Fisch, as well as Norwell girls coach Eric Thornton, who also joined us in the second hour, talked about his semi-state win and their upcoming matchup on Saturday. That'll do it. You've been listening to the Sports Rush with Brett Rump on 1380 The Fan and 100.9 FM.